It was a beautiful winter of 1983. I was an impressionable little lad. Yes, Purva, I'm a dinosaur. I took a little phone book I bought it very recently. I wrote the first entry, Shiva, my best friend, and his home phone number. Closed it, dug a little hole in the ground, and buried it there. You might wonder why. Cut to 2 weeks earlier. I very recently watched a Hindi movie, Amar Akbar Anthony. And in that, one of the child protagonists buries a toy pistol that his father had gifted him to hide it from the prying eyes of his brothers, only to recover it 25 years later and reunite with his father and his brothers. Now, inspired by this, this was the impact of films in my life. Inspired by this, I thought one day if Shiva and I do get separated, I will recover this 25 years later and call him. Without knowing that the microorganisms and the moisture in the soil would eat this notebook in due course of time. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and my dear guests. Pappa, my father, was instrumental in introducing movies to me, which influenced almost everything that I did in my life, even until today. He once took us to a morning show. After the show and lunch, he said, let's go. We said, where? He said, next show. After that show, we had some snacks and he said, let's go. We said, where? On the next street, there's another movie running. Fantastic. After that movie, he said, let's go home. But that was the longest marathon I have experienced in my life. There's another film called as Diwar, in which two brothers wear one half of a locket each. Right? And true to that symbol, my father bought 2 digital wristwatches, one each for me and my brother. And my brother wore it to school one day. And he came home crying, saying that the principal had confiscated the watch. He was in 3rd grade and I was in 7th. The principal apparently said, you will get it back when you're old enough to wear it. As the elder brother, I rushed to reclaim the lost family treasure. I barged into the principal's office and he had a terrifying name, Reverend Father Marshall Soares. I narrated my brother's story and pleaded with him to return the watch. He opened his drawer, looked at my brother's watch. He said, how did the watch look like? I said, just like mine. This is blue color, that's red color, that's it. He said, can I have a closer look? I took out my watch and gave it to him. He looked at it, fantastic. He put it in the drawer, shut the drawer, and said, get out. You will also get to wear this when you're old enough to wear a watch. Years later, in 1994, there was a movie that was released, Ye Dil Lagi, in which Saif Ali Khan and Akshay Kumar, who played brothers, wore the same watch. In college, I took a fancy to Rani, who was a melodious singer, and every guy wanted to woo her, and so did I. I somehow befriended her, but I found it difficult to express my feelings. That's when Shah Rukh Khan came to my rescue. In the movie Dar, he takes a large knife and carves the name Kiran. Now, inspired by that, I took a little pocket knife I had and carved the name Rani on my wrist. After a few days, she saw my hand. It had dried by that time. So she saw that. She said, looks like you love your granny a lot. I said, no, what makes you think so? You've carved Nani? The last I heard, Rani married Gopal Tanna. What a name, Gopal Tanna. Apparently, he had carved her name on his chest, on his hands, on his thighs, and on his back. I still wonder, how did he access his back? Well, You know, back in those days, in the 80s and 90s, every movie had this one particular scene where the hero and heroine walked towards the sunset, their hands slowly brushing against each other. First, the pinky fingers making contact, and then they're slowly holding the hands and walking towards the sunset. Our electrical technology professor, Mr. Ajay Kumar, was doing a practical class on how an electrical circuit diagram works for about 30 students. He was standing there and showing it to us. And there was standing Radhika. For some of you who have heard my earlier speeches, you know Radhika. Now that was my chance. Inspired that film, I took a step closer to her and slowly slid my hand and made the first contact with my pinky finger, brushed against her hand, and slowly held her hand in bliss. I closed my eyes. Is this heaven? Is this really what it is supposed to be? I opened my eyes, looked at Radhika and gave a smile. She smiled back at me. And then I looked up at a professor who was gazing down at me. I looked at him. What? What? What I say? Nothing, sir. Then leave my hand, I said. That was my first brush with a short circuit. Now, what started as an outing with Pappa, even before that, all right? There used to be this popular movie, Shahenshah, and one of the dialogues from this movie always replayed and lingered in my mind. So one day in Mumbai, while I wanted to travel in a local train, I went up to the ticket counter and handed over 2 rupees note and said, "Rishta Mohammed Tumhara Baap Lagta hai." He looked at me. So? Then I realized what I did. One return Ghatkopar. So what started as an outing with my Pappa ended up with many a Pappa in my life. Films are a reflection of reality, and vice versa for some of us who look for inspiration. Now, inspiration and influence are important, aren't they? For some it's movies, for some it's Toastmasters. If you're not inspired, if you're not influenced, what kind of a human are you? Now, if I list out all the movies that have influenced me, it will go forever and we don't have that much time. However, here are a few of them. I watched Nagin. I got married. I watched A Streetcar Named Desire. I bought my first car. I watched Kama Sutra. My daughter was born. Today, my daughter is a grown-up lady, and I recently watched Bagban. The time is not ripe yet, but I know for sure one day I will reunite with my best friend Shiva, and both of us in some corner of a hospital would be watching The Bucket List. What do you